Coming up on this edition of VCU In-Depth, documentaries from students at VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture.
We'll start off by examining a prison program that uses a unique way to facilitate inmates re-entering society.
And then we take a look at Richmond's straight-edge subculture, a lifestyle centered around sobriety and hardcore punk music, and setting its violent reputation straight.
VCU In-Depth begins right now.
Good evening, and welcome to VCU In-Depth. I'm Eleanor Ritzman.
And I'm Eli Lockaby. Thanks for joining us as we feature documentaries from undergraduate students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture.
Many retired racehorses face the threat of neglect and abuse, but one national program has created an unlikely home for these thoroughbreds: prison.
After screening for the program, inmates get an opportunity to care for horses, forging a bond full of second chances. Take Two looks at how this bond changes the inmate's outlook on life.
It's like almost was like an honor, because you go in, you do your time, don't say nothing, you don't snitch, you don't tell nothing, then you get back out and you got a little respect. And that's how I was looking at it.
Everybody makes mistakes, some bigger than others. It's overwhelming. So you hope that when they leave here from this program that we've given them a basis of people that they can contact on the outside if they need help, and give them the confidence that they can do this.
Maybe if it was a little bit scarier, it would have scared me, but that might sound crazy, but it's the truth. A lot of people can live in here and can't live out on the street.
Yeah, that's a good boy. Yeah. Let me see. It ain't gonna take that long. Let me get a few seconds, okay?
Easy. See, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just cleaning your nose. All right, buddy. We're vamos.
Gain no weight. You're about the same. You got a measuring tape, Ray?
All right, pal. One more to go. Here, pal. Make this quick and painless as possible. All right, buddy. Big baby. I'm a big baby.
Well, I grew up from a pretty good family. When I was in high school, my father had passed away, and my whole life changed. And I had to do what I had to do to, help my mom out.
I had a drug problem, and I ended up doing some larceny stuff and taking stuff to support my drug habit. And everything just one thing led to another. But yeah, it just got out of control, and that's why I'm here.
I used to work all the time, saved up a lot of money, and then somehow it got taken. So I'm like, I got to get all this back. I've been working all these years for nothing. So I decided to start hanging with my family, because a lot of them was on drugs or selling drugs. And then that's how I got into it.
I had to grow up fast. I made a choice to sell drugs instead of going to school, furthering my education. and it's been down here ever since then.
I spend a lot of my time locked up. This time I'm doing 14 years, so I got like 2 years and some months left, so I'm like, I need to change something, because I don't want this to be the rest of my life, being incarcerated.
The favorite part of Atlas's day right here. Man, buddy. Favorite part of your day right here. You love me? Peppermints. Just some peppermints.
We're under a study with VCU and Virginia Tech to find out why this program is the most successful in the country. Recidivism rate across the United States is about 36-38%. Virginia has the lowest recidivism rate, which is 24. This program is 5 and less. So we have to be doing something right.
Down here it's totally different because the people treat you different.
I like the time I get to spend with the horses. I like when you get to see them, their attitudes change.
Like being down here makes you feel like you want it, like you need it to help the animals, and it also helps myself. When I first came in the program, I mean, I'm pretty much the same all the way around, because I had decided that I was going to change the way I live anyway. But this was like, you know, to push me further towards that goal. And when you're working with positive people, you can't help but be positive.
I guess you can get a little serenity down here, if you want to say, a little peace when you come down here.
It just takes you away from all of the thoughts of being at home. You know, it gives you a little sense of freedom in a sense.
I could say I'm on a different level of responsibility. Coming down here, taking care of the horses it's kind of like taking care of kids, really.
It's like soothing. It's like when you go play with the horses or you go pat them, they'll nudge up against you, like they know how you feel. Like you might be down. They like people almost. It's like they have their own days where they not feeling good, or they down, or they mad, or they acting stubborn. It's like humans almost, and they give you the same interaction like dealing with a human, but they're an animal.
That's probably my most favorite thing, to watch how each individual horse, they're all the same, but they're all so different, you know, just like us, you know, as humans. And I think it's kind of how a horse is when they're acting up and you have to correct them, and you know, then you feel bad because you've had to scold them a little bit, you know, and that's kind of the same way with the child, you know. But the bonding just is unreal, and I never could see myself, and I'm 40 years old, I never could see myself bonding like that.
I mean, they can't talk to you, but they get their little, you know, signs and stuff that you know that they listening or they there for you. I mean, I actually sit there and talk to the horses, and it's like they sit there and listen, and nobody complains.
It kind of gets you out of the part of being incarcerated for just a few minutes.
And he's going to be certified in entry-level groom. And as I was asking him the question of, tell me 3 things that your horse will do to let you know that he is understanding what you're wanting him to do.
And if they leave this program and say, you know, my time at James River the difference was this program and what the people did and how Laura treated me and gave me back my self-respect, to me that's worth everything.
We all broke the law, and we all had to pay for our mistakes, and we all look for a second chance, maybe a third chance. So hopefully I can get that second chance or third chance, because I'm too old for this. I'm getting too old for this. I'm too old for this.
I really want to open like a non-profit to help kids before they get into a situation like mine. And maybe, you know, integrate the horses in with that to help them, to show them that this is what helped me. It's like a freedom, and it's like nurturing at the same time. The horses help you through a lot of things.
I definitely feel very confident that I won't return. I don't, like I said, I see what my issues have stole from my life, and I'm grateful to have this opportunity, because this has been a tough time, but I could be dead. And having a second chance is an awesome chance. So many people don't have that chance again.
I'm Bill Oglesby, an associate professor in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture and the instructor for the documentary class. Joining me tonight are Africoma Darko, Alex Finneran, and Nyona Whitley, who produced the Take Two documentary. That kind of got to me. That really did. That was nice. Africoma, tell me, how did the inmates feel about being on camera? Were they hesitant?
Well, initially they were a bit reserved, but by our second visit, they really opened up to us and, really told us about their experiences and how they got there and how this program has really given them a second chance. So it was really nice to see that.
Huh. So did you find that you had to kind of talk to them off camera and kind of get to know them a little bit? Did that help so that when the camera was turned on, they weren't as self-conscious?
Yeah, a little bit. We spoke to them mostly on camera, so they got used to it. I think they were a little accustomed to it.
Yeah, okay. How did the program get started, Nyona?
So it started in 2007, and basically the Thoroughbred Retirement Center, the James River Division, went to DOC, Department of Corrections, to try to start this program. And then they created the Greener Pastures program with that partnership. So one of the co-founders, he said that they came for the horses, but they stayed for the men. And I thought that was it really touched me to see how they initially were so involved trying to get the horses rehabilitated, but they formed the bonds with the men. And
this actually had to come through the General Assembly to make it a reality, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, Alex, what exactly happens to the inmates when they graduate from the program? Because it doesn't go but so long, right?
Yeah, so the end of the program doesn't mean that they are getting out of prison, but they're at a work center. So while they're at the center, they have to be working. So I believe for Ray, after the program is over, he is going to do a prison demolition job. Casey is going to stay in the program as a teaching assistant, actually. And then Harrison is being transferred to another prison in Northern Virginia, I believe.
Huh.
He'll be working there as well.
It was really nice to see in some of those close-up sort of tender moments when they're talking to the horses and stuff. I mean, how did you get that? Did you have to kind of make them forget you were there?
It was really easy because that was on, I think, the third visit we were there. And we just put microphones on them and we just kind of asked them to do what they do, act like we're not there. And they were very, very responsive to that.
Huh. And the Department of Corrections really worked with you on this, huh?
Yes. Yes, I had a contact who was just extremely helpful, and he was able to help me set everything up. And from there, we were able to take off and get everything that we needed.
Okay, great. Well, good job, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I've been speaking with Robertson School students and documentary producers, Africoma Darko, Alex Finneran, and Nyona Whitley. Excellent work, guys.
Thanks, Dr. Oglesby. In a lifestyle of mosh pits, band t-shirts, and hardcore music, some so-called punks rebel against mainstream culture by refraining from drug, alcohol, and tobacco use. Coined straight edge, or SXE, the movement started in the 1980s and has spread.
Its influence reaches around the globe, but has a special place in Richmond. Meet the local musicians and fans who identify themselves as hardcore teetotalers. Here's SXE.
You wake up in the morning, and do you think about breathing? Do you think about breathing when you wake up? That's how I feel about being straight edge. Any moment I'm experiencing, be it the best moment of my life or the worst moment of my life, I am experiencing it just as it exists in reality and just as my mind is supposed to naturally perceive it.
the 70s really, there was nothing going on. Like, I would look around and I couldn't find any sort of counterculture. I couldn't find any kind of attraction with a community of people that felt like they were challenging conventional thinking. In fact, what I mostly saw were just people who were getting high. And it seemed like such a, I don't know, disappointing that was the only form of rebellion that they could come up with, which was self-destruction. I was never interested in that at all.
Straight edge is a lifestyle specific to the world of hardcore punk music that originated in Washington, D.C. in 1981. The tenets are generally not drinking, not doing drugs, not smoking.
It started because of Minor Threat. They wrote a song called Straight Edge. Ian Mackay kind of coined the term. You know, people kind of thought like, well, that's how I like that's how I live, like that's what I do, like that's what I don't do. And they clung to it.
The underage kids not being able to get into shows and then putting X's on hands because they weren't allowed to drink, and then they wore those X's with pride and said, well, you know, we don't need to drink, we don't need to do drugs.
The short and sweet of it is, it started in the 80s in DC, late 80s in New York, 90s kind of all throughout like the corridor, and now it's everywhere.
You can't go anywhere in Richmond without seeing a kid wearing a hardcore shirt. It's a hardcore town. It's pretty insane, which is just not typical anywhere.
There are a ton of straight edge people in Richmond. Now I would consider it a place within the entire world, the entire genre of hardcore music, a place that has potentially the highest percentage, or or one of the top 3 in America. Growing up, I was like kind of sheltered like a little bit, and I didn't really have like a lot of friends in those formative years that were like the friend that gives you your first drink or like drugs, or whatever. Then I found out about the lifestyle and I was like, oh, I'm already doing that.
Shattered Existence is a straight edge band. Watch Dogs is a metalcore band, but it's not a straight edge band. So I'm in one of each. Got best of both worlds. I was very much a loser. Like, I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke weed. I'd just hang out and draw and listen to like old punk and metal. I went and saw Down to Nothing for the first time, and I didn't look back. Like, I was just like, I love this. I love what's going on in this room. I love what they're talking about. I love that no one in here is like in need of drugs and alcohol. They're together with music, and it's sick. And it just kind of like let me know like, oh, there are other people doing like the same thing as me.
I've been straight edge since 1999. I'm a barber. When I initially met people in the scene in Wilkes-Barre, like I said, there was such a strong straight edge scene. I didn't know what straight edge was, but I knew that my dad was an alcoholic, and I knew that my mom and him weren't together because of that. So I was always very wary of, letting things like overpower me. One time I remember being a little kid and my dad got arrested for drunk driving, like while I was in the car with him, and literally going to the jail and sitting on the other side of him being behind bars and eating a cheeseburger that the cop got for me, but he couldn't eat because he was wasted. So those are the things, like I'll remember that almost more than, Christmas.
I started listening to punk when I was like 12. I started going to shows around that time too. I started like drinking and like partying and stuff like that, like at a really young age, because I kind of figured out that wasn't me. It was really comforting to like find people who were like wholesome and like genuinely interested in like my well-being. it's never been just like a boys club, you know what I mean? For me anyways, like I know girls are straight edge, like it's just a thing.
Sometimes people get these weird, you know, oh, I drink and these people don't, they think less of me. And it's just like, but it's also like, a straight edge person probably feels the same way, being like, well, I don't drink, so the person who drinks thinks less of me. And I think there's a lot of miscommunication that happens.
In Richmond, it's like being like, oh, like, I had a bad experience with hardcore kids in Richmond. It's always, I had a bad experience with straight edge people in Richmond. But the thing is that you may not even been, like, it may not even been straight edge people. Things are not anywhere near as like violent and like rough and as exclusive as they were when I was like younger.
A lot of people see like the whole like moshing thing as like people fighting, and fights start, but you know it's like it's just like a dance.
I've never felt like, you know, because I was a girl, like my likelihood of being injured is higher. You walk into that environment knowing that you could potentially be hurt, and I don't think like anyone I don't think anyone should change that.
I don't think it so much has to do with like smoking a cigarette in front of the club or drinking a beer as it does like when they see the aggression come up, they're like, well, oh, I'm not gonna let this person hit me. It's just like, well, you were standing kind of in the line of fire. It's like when you're at SeaWorld and they say if you sit in the front 3 rows, you're gonna get splashed on by the whale. And then you decide you're gonna fight the whale because the whale splashed you. It's like, no, you lose.
It wasn't like, I need to get like a straight edge t-shirt and be like, oh, I'm straight edge. It was just like, yeah, I've got brown hair, brown eyes, and I don't drink, I don't smoke. It's just, it's not necessarily a part of like my fashion or my like costume or uniform. It's just like, might as well be saying that I'm a human being.
Straight edge just kind of let me find my own identity through myself. I'm not identified by like who I am on, you know, Saturday night. I'm who I am all the time.
I feel like being straight edge has helped me develop healthier coping mechanisms as far as like dealing with my emotions and like, you know, things that I have to deal with in life that like, you know everyone has to deal with, but I've found healthier ways to do that.
Every moment I've had that has been extremely happy or extremely devastating, I've experienced completely real, completely uninhibited by an alteration of what reality is in that moment. For me, there's no other way to live.
Joining me now are the student producers of SXE, Julie Rothy, Jennifer Whirling, and Carol Ann Wilson. Nice job, folks.
Thank you.
I know this sounds kind of weird, but did you ever feel in any danger, Julie, when you were shooting this moshing footage?
I really didn't. It looks really violent, but as one of our interviewees says, it's just really a dance. So I was able to kind of use the venue and the crowd to my advantage to not be like right in the middle of the mosh pit. But also people saw me as like someone who is not hardcore with a camera and would like step in front of me and take like full body hits for me. because they saw that I wasn't really there to be part of the mosh pit. I was there to document it.
Huh. So there's some chivalry involved in this, huh?
Definitely, it was amazingly friendly and nice community.
Okay. Jennifer, what did you find about straight edge that maybe surprised you? This is something that a lot of people are surprised to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what it was before we shot this documentary, but I didn't know that it came from such like a violent, hardcore, like punk background, and like it's really just a bunch of people like just choosing not to drink alcohol. Like they don't push it on you, like it's just their lifestyle, and they're like totally cool if you like drink or do drugs, but like they're like, don't push it on me, and like I won't push it on you. So it's very like mutual respect kind of thing.
It was definitely an interesting subculture. Why did you choose this particular one, Carol Ann?
Yeah, so when I first moved to Richmond is when I heard of the straight edge culture. And I really thought it was important to highlight this group and this subculture because right now we're in the midst of an opioid epidemic. We're very much in a binge drinking subculture. And I wanted to highlight a young group of, people that are living sober lives without having to sacrifice being cool or being tough. I mean, it's very much a lively group. They're just sober and abstinent, so it's pretty cool.
Was there a lot of good stuff that didn't make it, sort of ended up on the cutting room floor?
Definitely. One big aspect of the culture is veganism. There's kind of a whole subculture of vegan straight edge that we weren't really able to include just because of time.
Huh. And that's actually, so veganism is a big part of that?
Yeah, there are straight edge bands that are vegan and sing about animal rights, and that's part of their rebellion against society.
Oh, interesting. Well, thanks, folks. We've been here with the documentary students and producers of the SXE documentary, Julie Rothy, Jennifer Whirling, and Carol Ann Wilson. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Well, that does it for this edition of VCU In-Depth. Thank you for joining us. I'm Eli Lockaby.
And I'm Eleanor Ritzman. For all of us at VCU In-Depth, good night.